Hi, everyone. Welcome to Parenting How Not to Suck. You should know that if you clicked on this link, you already do not suck. You already are looking at your parenting and want to find ways to grow and enjoy this journey. So today I have my beautiful guest here, Sarah Schaefer, and we're both wearing hats, if you notice. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about these hats. Sarah and I, these are previous hats that we've worn throughout our careers. I was a teacher, Sarah was a social worker. And in our pre-recording meeting, we really realized how much we were restricted in those roles to talk about only certain things in certain ways. Our authenticity had been stifled. And we really feel, in order to help people truly, madly, deeply, that we need to talk about the things that people aren't allowed to talk about. So, Sarah and I wanted to visually show you that today we are taking these hats off. And we are going to talk about the real deal of the real life of parenting and healing and going through the hard things. So,
Yes.
welcome, Miss Sarah Schaefer.
Well,
Sarah
thank
is
you
a
so much.
straight talking, for sure, life strategy coach with 25 years in social work and a lifetime of navigating life's messes. As the founder of Be a Butterfly Life, she's on a mission to help Gen X women get unstuck and start living intentionally. Sarah's approach is raw, real, and unapologetically honest. No fluff, no filters, my kind of girl. She's been through enough to know that life struggles can either hold us back or push us forward. Through judgment free coaching, she offers practical strategies for managing anxiety, embracing resilience, and finding clarity amid the chaos. Sarah's here to create a space where women feel seen, supported, and ready to reclaim their lives. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Natalie. It is just a thrill to be here. You and I first spoke, and it was a connection and kindred spirits, like we said right off the
Yeah,
bat.
yeah, I
Right?
know.
No one better to talk about something real with.
That's exactly, and that's what I want for my listeners, right? None of the fluff,
Yep.
no fluff. We're fluff free, right? This is
Exactly.
this is you want to hear the truth, our truths, right? Either people,
Yep.
you know what I've said to people for years, like it or lump it, take it down the road and dump it. Like it has you either connect with our message or you don't,
Right.
right? And that's okay.
And I think we've, unfortunately lost that ability to weed out, which is some of the things that we'll probably, that we'll talk on, weeding out what's real, what's not, what has value, and what is worth my energy.
Absolutely. And that's different for every
Yep,
person, every parent, every child. It's their unique systems of families, right? So
absolutely.
it's important for the parents to really have a knowledge of that centering. What do I value? What is important to me in my time? Because it's not going to be the same as your neighbor or the chickie boo that's on social media that her life is perfect.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, that is. I know. All right, let's get into this. So I love your story, Sarah, because it has so much depth to it and the struggles, but then coming into the resilient place you are in your life right now. So, how did you get here? How did this all start?
I've really come to that acceptance that I am not unique. I have my laundry list of traumas that extend from childhood abuse and all the gloriousness that goes with that to I was survived 9/11, and my youngest was a stem cell is a stem cell transplant survivor and now is diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I got sober about 3.5 years ago after just completely demolishing myself and everything that got in my way. And being a professional, being a social worker, oh, I can tell everybody else how to get their
Mm,
acts in gear, but there was just, I was struggling very much. And I think it really just comes to a point of when you decide that enough is enough and
mm,
that you're done. And went to rehab twice and really dug into what I wanted out of this life and what I wanted to provide to my children. And what I
hmm.
was doing was definitely not that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We have to, that we all need to do that, right? Why do you think that's so difficult for people to turn inward and,
Because it's comfortable. That place of misery, that place in your bathtub of filth becomes very comfortable. And there's a lot of neuroscience that goes behind it. And we're hearing
hmm
more and more about it, where we're actually understanding that the brain controls, oh, I don't know, pretty much everything. And so that comfort level, and there's this communication, I believe, between your internal person and this physical being.
Mm,
And depending on what the scenario is, and just that difficulty of getting up out of that tub of filth, thinking that I can't wash this off. I've been in it for so long, it's never going to go away. And it's almost a blind faith where it's, yes, I'm going to get up. Something's got to be better than this.
mm,
Something, anything has to be better than this. And it was really that ownership and accountability. We can all revolve around so and so did this to me. This is what happened. This, absolutely. It's happening to all of us.
yes.
But my reactions, my behaviors, my intentions, those are what I'm responsible for. And it's a pretty ugly look when you really take that true look at yourself. And if you don't like it, I live by F. Scott Fitzgerald. If you're not proud of the life you're living, then I hope you have the courage to start all over again. And it's choices that we make. And switching into more of a platform arena is that I just keep witnessing more and more women who are degrading themselves as mothers, degrading themselves as wives, all the
Mm,
negative talk, and really hoping that they can understand that our value is so much more than we were taught as kids.
absolutely. Absolutely. Especially as parents.
Yep.
Helping raise these beautiful little beings in this world. And that's one of the things I think is just not talked about enough is how mothers, especially now today with all this information out there and all the parenting experts on TikTok and here and there and every, no wonder you feel bad because you're seeing everybody else do all these amazing things and
Right.
all these experts
Right.
give you all these tips, but none of them work at your house. Like that, the internet wasn't the way it is now when I had my kids. Thank goodness, because I
For sure.
been
Sure.
watching everything going, oh my God, I'm doing this wrong. I'm doing that wrong. I'm doing everything wrong. And I already felt like I was doing everything wrong. Right? Like,
Thank God I didn't have the video monitors.
oh
I would
yeah.
have been a Looney Tune
Mm,
with that,
yeah.
especially and even with a transplant baby. I had to do a monitorectomy when he was like 6 because I needed to constantly
Monitor. Yeah. Talk about
monitor.
it being
Well,
in a
let me
state of
rephrase that. I
anxiety.
didn't have to. I didn't have to.
Yeah.
I had a difficult time
Yeah.
breaking that.
Yeah, when your heart's walking around outside your body, you get that anxiety, especially when you have a child that was as sick as your boy was. That adds that extra level. So moms today really need to step into their worthiness and know
Yes.
that, honey, you got a meal into your kids today. Like, pat yourself on the back. If you can only do that one thing.
Winning, winning,
Yeah.
winning. You
Yeah.
didn't sell them on the street corner. Winning.
Yeah.
And to really help women understand those thoughts don't make you an evil human being. Those are
Yeah.
completely normal. There's sometimes that they're terrible. And you sit there and you're like, oh, this is not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
That's okay because your true intention isn't to sell them on the street corner to the
No, but it's those
but
feelings,
it's okay.
right?
But then we start that negative talk again. Oh my God, I'm the worst mother. I can't
Mm-hmm.
believe I think this about my kids. Everybody else's child is perfect. No, they're not.
Yeah. No, they're not. No, I know. Nobody's perfect.
Far from
It
it.
doesn't exist. Perfect parenting, perfect kids. No, there is connection with who you are, who your child truly is. That's the meat that we want to get down to, right? With
Yep.
in our family systems. And we both help people do that through what we
Right.
do. So tell me, why did you make this jump to finally leave the social work, right? The comfy job. I left the teaching as well. What was the straw for you?
I think you just used a very interesting word, comfy.
Mm,
And I think it got very uncomfortable where like we were wearing the hats, the restrictions. I work in the hospital and here in the United States, it's no longer medicine. They're
mm,
not practicing medicine. They're practicing legal avoidance
mm,
and family reactions. And that's it. And so wanting to be able to share my experiences in which, because as a coach, I cannot expect you to tell me you're deep, dark, spooky, and ugly if I'm sitting here going, how did that make you feel? No, you need to know that I was down there licking the floor.
Yeah.
You need
Yeah.
to know that I was down there and now I'm sitting here. So I'm not BSing you.
Yeah.
And you know, to not look at them as failures, because the expectations that were set are not manageable. And I know I've shifted.
Yeah.
The
But
deleting,
it's the same with the jobs,
right?
right? That's what I found with the teaching. The expectations are not manageable. Same for parents. The expectations are not manageable.
And you're sitting there going, who's thinking this stuff up?
Mm,
Why does little Johnny need to be in travel baseball, travel soccer, travel lacrosse, travel this, travel that? Who came up with this is going to make little Johnny be a fantastic human being?
yeah.
It's going to make little Johnny's arm fall off and probably not
Yeah.
stand his
Stressed
parents because
out.
he was right.
Yeah. Yeah. Our kids deal with so much, right?
And we just have to, I am so sorry about that. We just have to reframe what's important.
Mm-hmm.
Reframe that resilience is better than accolades.
Absolutely. That resilience
No.
piece is huge, right? We've all fallen down. We all have our stories. The resilience piece is to get back up and
Up.
not beat yourself up. One of my big quotes is when you know better, you do better. And I've always said, especially as a teacher, if I ever meet anybody that has stopped learning, I'm like, dude,
Right.
like what else is there? If I run into a teacher and they know everything, I'm like, no, no, you don't. No, you don't. Nobody knows everything. We're constantly growing, expanding, and learning new things. It's hard though. It's a hard battle for
It's
people
very,
listening, going through some
it's
tough stuff.
extremely hard. It's extremely hard to recognize that we will get through this. When you're in that time, I will talk to other parents. And I was just in the store the other day and there was a toddler having an absolute meltdown. And I was like, nope, don't miss it at all. Nope, not one bit.
Yeah.
But my heart bleeding for that mother who
Hmm.
is, I just needed to get some milk.
Yeah.
And you are acting as if I'm pulling one toenail out
Yeah,
at a
at a
time.
time. Yeah.
And that fear of that judgment, that fear that somebody's looking at you. And one of the
Hmm.
important things to remember is that that's our perception.
That's right.
It's our perception. And it helped when I was like, I'm not that important. I
Yeah.
am really not all that in a bag of chips. So my kid melting down, nobody's really paying attention. And the more psycho I get about it, is where the attention comes in. Not the
Yeah.
screaming kid, it's the lunatic mother.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we forget sometimes, that people aren't out there walking around analyzing you and your behavior and
Right,
this and that.
right.
Everybody's in their own worlds, right? And
Yep,
doing their own things. When you work with parents, especially from my generation, so we have kids that are older and stuff, and we're
yep.
filled with that shame and the guilt and we're not overwhelmed by toddlers anymore, but how do you help us deal with that, those feelings?
So for me, it was that ownership and accountability. Knowing, yes, I did things. I've shared with you. I was a raging alcoholic. The mistakes were plenty.
Mm,
The things to feel guilty for were plenty. And one of the biggest thing that I did not get from my parents was that day in the ring, that ownership, that accountability. Yes, we
hmm.
completely botched this whole thing, and you're right, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Never gonna happen. I sat my kids down and said, yes, I terrified you. Yes, I did things that I just would never, ever in a million years intentionally do to harm you, but I did them.
Hmm.
I can't explain it away. I can't excuse it. We all know the reasons why we do things, but
Yeah.
they're not excuses. And when
No.
we stop making excuses, then that guilt and shame starts to lessen. because I've given you an opportunity to share your piece. I'm saying, yes, that stuff
Mm-hmm.
that's going on with you is real. Lay it on me. And I know 5 years, 10 years, whatever, something's could come back up again.
Yeah.
You got it. But the trust and the bond that I have with my kids today is monumentally different because I broke that cycle and I did the biggest thing that was never given to me.
Yeah.
And I know we all set out to do that when we have those traumatic childhood. I'll never do that. I'll never drink. I'll never be an alcoholic. I'll never beat my kids. I'll never, whatever.
Yeah.
And we all somehow, miraculously and psychologically, somehow end up in very similar scenarios many times, not all
Mm-hmm.
the time.
Yeah.
And I do. I think it's that backpedal where it's like, oh, I'm too far into it.
Yeah.
I've already screwed this up. No, because we got a lot of time left. And these kids, they need us to be human.
Yes, I
They
agree.
need us to be honest, not coddling.
No.
They need to feel safety. And that even goes to if we're in a volatile relationship. Those kids don't feel safe if they don't know what's coming around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And those spidey senses that are heightened all the way at 2 years old,
Yeah.
5 years old, 10 years old, doesn't matter. And that's those coping skills that are being built then.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we step out of our comfort zone and say, oh, whoa, I see where this train is going and I don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm such an I agree with the authenticity piece and being vulnerable with our kids when they're obviously at a developmental age where you can have those discussions, letting them know, look, I'm not perfect. I screwed up. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. We're all human because what that then shows the child is that it's okay for me to do this too when I screw up. We're all going to screw up.
Right.
Hello.
I'm not perfect. I'm not this. And I can remember a family member had said to me, he had two girls, two young girls, and I had the two young boys who were running around and swinging from the rafters. And he's like, oh, parenting. I said, parenting is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. He's like,
Hmm.
oh, it's the easiest thing I've ever had to do. And I said, okay, when you have two teenage girls, that'll be fine. And there was another instance where he said a parent should never have to apologize to their child. And I was like,
Wow.
I don't even know which avenue you're going with that. Is that you're never going to do something that you need to apologize for? It just
Yeah.
didn't make sense to me. And I think that was when it really resonated with me of like, oh, yes, we do need to apologize to our children.
Yeah.
And like you said, age appropriate, not overdoing and not, I'm sorry, I think my dog's doing something.
That's okay. Listen, we had a real parenting moment in the last recording the other day.
Exactly,
So yeah.
parenting of a four-legged.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just, I think when we step back and we say, I'm not going down the path that was told to me,
Hmm.
I'm going to go down the path that feels right to me.
Absolutely. And we
And I
can't
think
find
if
that on
we
the internet.
make our decisions right, if we make
Yeah.
our decisions based on that, then they're better decisions.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And when they're incorporated with your family values, right? Every family is different. So I feel that every parent needs to sit down as a couple or a single parent, decide, okay, what is most important to me? How do I want to spend my time? What values do I want to instill in my children? And use those as a touching point to come back to when things are getting challenging, or you don't know how to limit screen time, or you don't know, go back to those values. What do I
Right.
value? Right. And you can see people's values by their actions. Right.
And absolutely. And it is, again, that reframing, that reassessing, because when we talk about those values, okay, where did those values come from? Maybe those need
Exactly.
some reassessing and reframing, redefining, you
Yes.
know. Oh, we have to go to grandma's because it's family. That's what we do. If grandma's really not the best human being in the world,
Yeah.
no, we don't need to go to grandma's because I don't know whose checkbox that's going into.
Exactly. Yeah, like
But
there is no great big checkbox in the sky that we all have to, or a box that we all have to fit into to be okay, to
right.
be comfortable and confident in how we're parenting. So I think my next question, this leads into good to my next question is people and parents and children are losing connection to who they are more and more. Like, why do you think that's happening now?
First and foremost obvious answer that we know is social media. We've all lost connections. I even find myself now, social media is the bane of my existence. It grates my soul, but it's necessary in things that you and I do and how we
Yes.
conduct our businesses and all of those kinds of things. It's vital. We cannot do it without it. But I even find myself
Mm-hmm.
scrolling too much. Who liked this post? What's
Yeah.
no? And I have to consciously shut it down. And these kids don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And it's not within their control. Even Mason came down to us, I think it was like last year or the year before. And I have a lot of trouble doing my homework with the Xbox because I just
Mm-hmm.
keep going back to it. Can you help me?
Yes.
Hell yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, we can. And the amount of acknowledgement, like, that's what we acknowledge. Not that you
Mm-hmm.
won your jujitsu match. That's
Yeah.
lovely. But the fact that you were able to call yourself out on something and be like, I need help, that
Mm-hmm.
is 10 times more than some
Um,
dumbass medal.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's where, so when we talk about we lost the connection as to who we are, it's where we found that value. And like we said, the travel teams and this, everything's based on sports, everything's based on grade merit, everything's based on this.
Yeah.
I would rather have an average student, even a bad student, but tries, because again, that's a path that was very, you, maybe your kid, that's not their thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yes, there's a basic education that's necessary and all of that, but you and I work, you go to school, you get married, you have kids, you do this, you go to college, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah.
And retire.
And none of that was real.
None of it.
None of that whole life dream that we think we're gearing our kids towards. We're sitting here now as Gen X women
Mm-hmm.
saying, oh, hell no, this is not what I wanted. It's not what I signed up for. It's not what was in the brochure.
Yeah. I didn't get the brochure.
It was a telemarketer
Yeah.
to a timeshare that was in the Simpsons, or
Yeah.
what was that, South Park, that had it
Yeah.
going round and round. That's what it is.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
why would we then in turn push our kids to go after the same stupid thing?
Exactly.
So that ownership and accountability also gives us empowerment to stand up to those other people who may have opinions if we're not wanting to go on those. Hey, like it or leave it.
Yeah.
Your opinion has no impact.
On my life or my kids' lives. And it's a great example with your son. He's older, but connecting with who he is and understanding once they have that connection to who they are, they can make better decisions and they
Yep.
develop their own values, and everything in the world isn't outside of them for their
Right.
validation. Like
Right.
that, and I think that we have to start that as parents as young to instill that into our children. But in order to do that, we got to do it here first. And
Because
that's what you help people with.
if I'm
Yes.
looking for that validation in my partner, life is
Hmm.
not a Jerry Maguire movie. Nobody's completing you.
That's right.
Nobody is completing you.
No.
And if that's what you've been looking for up until 50 years old, 52 years old, and you realize that, then go and keep going, keep looking, go find yourself, go be that person that you want to be
Hmm.
for yourself and for your children and for your family, because that's what teaches them
Yeah.
that get up and keep going. And like you said, that external, my oldest just went down, he's a freshman in college and swimming. And my husband, because that's what his parents did, went to every
Hmm.
game, every swim meet, every golf match, every this. Dude, we drove 4 hours down there And again, we all know what a swim means. So we stood,
Yeah.
for 3 hours to watch 30 seconds of swimming and came back and I was like, and I really sat there and I go, I really hope I'm not the first person he looks for.
Mm,
I want him to look for his coach. I want him to look for his teammates.
yeah.
I want him, our children's worlds cannot revolve around whether or not we're yaying or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even the negative pieces of child lesson learning. So Mason, God love his soul, threw out his retainers. They're $250 a pop.
Yeah.
And this has just been a progressive life thing for Mason, whether it was the goggles and water bottles and towels and
Yeah.
this.
Isn't that the story of every parent?
And it just progressively gets more and more expensive. So,
Yeah.
here's a kid with visual problems, orthodontic work, all the stuff that he's got. And I still looked at that kid and I said, you better go upstairs and get that $500. Because I am like it, because it was the simple child thing of, we told you to put your retainers in your case. You opted not to do that. And then you threw them out in the garbage at school.
Yeah.
Natural consequences.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's a big one, is the allow natural consequences.
Please allow.
Allow your children to fail.
Absolutely.
Allow your children to trip. Allow them to fall.
Hmm. We sometimes, as new parents, you want to put them in a bubble and you don't ever want to see them sad and whatever. But what people forget is allowing them to make those mistakes and feel those natural consequences. First of all, they're not going to die. But also, second of all, those situations and those challenges build resilience. If you never had a challenge in your life, how are you going to have to be able to be resilient to get back up?
It was just, whether it was within the last 5 years of college students, where these get the level of suicidality was huge, because this generation, they never learned to fail.
Yeah.
So when it happened and mommy and daddy weren't there to immediately pick up the pieces, they crumbled. And
Yeah.
we have to realign that, because that is not good parenting.
No.
Catching every single thing that they do so they don't feel any hurt or angst is not going to bode well for them in
No.
the long run.
It's,
And luckily, the orthodontist only charged him $150, but I still made him pay that. He needed to feel
yeah.
that thing of, I worked all summer and now $150 is gone for nothing.
Yeah. But it's about taking that responsibility as the parent, modeling that. And then I'm sure he didn't flip out when you said that, because he knows from you as his mother, you take responsibility for your actions. I take responsibility for my actions. Right.
And I think that's a really good point, is he told me up front, we got in the
Mm-hmm.
car and he said, could you please drive out of the parking lot before I have to tell you this? And I really actually didn't scream. And the conversation was, we know you didn't do it on purpose. This has nothing to do with you being a good, bad, or ugly person.
Mm-hmm.
This is just, we have repeatedly asked you, and now you're going to
Yeah.
feel it. And he's learned that I mean that. Like, he knows he's out $150.
Yeah.
But he also wasn't terrified to come to me. He knows he'll have to have a consequence.
Yeah.
He knows that. But it's better to tell mom up front
Yeah.
and not find out because that's been our big thing, is don't lie to us. That is the only thing that we cannot undo for you.
Yeah. That's a big value piece, right? In your family.
Yeah.
I'm sure most families have that honesty piece. I find though that honesty also has to come with that authenticity and vulnerability too.
Mm-hmm.
We can be honest about a lot of things, but if you hold back those pieces that leave you out to be vulnerable, then
Right.
that is that trust truly there. So
Right.
it's so important in all of our relationships, but especially I think with our kids.
And I think allowing them, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just real quick, allowing them to have that emotion, have that fear, have that, he was upset. And
Yeah.
and we'll go around. If I'm having an off day, I'll be like, dude, it's an off day. I'm just
Yeah.
giving everybody fair warning. So yes, you can have your plate, you can have your peace, live where you're living. We usually give about 24 hours,
Yeah.
and then you got to move on.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to ever discount it. It's not that just roll over, buck up,
Yeah.
camper.
Yeah.
That's not real either.
No. No. If you're in a low place and you're in a bad place having a rough day, a joke I say is you can't go from shitty to giddy in one fell
Right,
swoop, right? You have to
right,
take
right.
your time to get yourself in that better mood. But like you said, are we doing this for 7 days? Are we doing this for a month? No, we're not. Like it is
Right.
very important to feel those feelings, but it is also important in how you respond and make that choice, like you were saying earlier. Am I going to stay here? Because it
Am
is
I
a
going to be stuck?
choice, right? It
It
is a
is
choice.
a choice. And what we
Everything's a
have to
choice.
remember is not making a choice
Also a
is
choice.
a choice.
Yes. Burying it and head in the sand and oh, I'm just not going to think about that. Also a choice. That comes with consequences, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that resilience is dude, I know something's coming. I know
Yeah.
it. I just got to own it, and I will get through the other side. I've made it through everything. And we can honestly say
Yeah.
that because if we're still standing there going, I need to make it through this, then we've made it through everything else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No matter what that has been, no matter
Yep.
what struggles. Why is it so important for you to serve the Gen X generation? Those like me. We talked about it in our pre-recording meeting, but let listeners know that's a niche, right? That's a niche that we're forgotten. I feel like our
Absolutely.
generation's forgotten, right?
We are forgotten. I think there's two pieces of it. I think we forgot ourselves because I believe that our generation got complacent in buying that path dream
You
because we were
did.
like, all right, it's got to be true at some point. Okay, this next decade, that'll be true.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll get there. I'll get there. And then I think it's just that eyes opening. And I think you and I talked about this last week or the week
Hmm.
before, that once our eyes are open and we see what we see, we should not and cannot unsee it. And that being where we are, who we are, what we want to do about it, if anything. And as Gen Xers, we're the bulldog who will take all of the beatings and literally sit there and say, thank you, sir, may I have another?
Yeah.
Animal House. And we don't have to.
Yeah.
We do not have to, because I think we were very confused. We were like, you're so powerful. We came out of the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah.
And then came all of the money and the glamour and this mock sexual revolution that is weird, and I'm not even quite sure what women are trying to empower, like
Yeah.
embrace
Yeah.
with that whole thing. But that's my son. So the Gen Xers, we were just like, we can survive anything. We can survive the
Well,
apocalypse. We
yeah.
know.
We have to because we have to do it all. We have to work, we
Well,
have to
we
stay at home, be good
right.
mothers.
Don't forget that was big too. We were supposed to be the CEO and the mother,
Yeah.
full-time mother and
Hmm.
wife and PTA mom
Yeah.
and soccer mom and swim.
And what so many people our age are dealing with too is also now looking after their parents. We're like the sandwich generation, right? There's a lot to
Right.
unpack there.
There's a ton. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
But the parenting and letting ourselves up, and why this because I believe that I know I look at how I parented and keeping up with the Joneses and doing all that nonsense
Hmm.
whilst managing the chaos of normal life,
Yeah.
and then sick kid, and then having it all just come, and realizing that we don't just have to stand there and get pelted by everything. And that's where
Absolutely.
I feel like we get stuck. We're like, oh
Hmm.
crap, I've just taken it for so long. I know how to do it, so it's fine. It's easier for
Feels
me to
comfortable,
just
like you
go
said
into that
earlier.
I can cocoon it, I can
Yeah.
armadillo it, and I'll be fine. And then I can peek my head out when the war zone quiets down.
Yeah.
Because Gen X, don't forget, we were that's 9/11. That this war zone stuff
Yeah.
is real to us because growing up it was like Vietnam and you don't know, you don't know, you don't
Yeah.
know. We found out,
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Yeah. And the
you know,
pressures
and
of the digital world we live in as well, right? Just, and the lack of community. And there's so many things facing our generation. So I guess this is a perfect segue into, I have my final questions that I ask all my guests. And this will segue in. What is your definition of a fulfilled life?
I my definition of a fulfilled life is when I am feeling peaceful,
Mm,
then I'm fulfilled. If I am not having angst about things that are within my world, the
yeah.
angst that because of all this nonsense,
Hmm. Yeah.
that needs to be addressed on a different level. But when I'm good with what I'm doing, I'm good with where my people are,
Hmm.
and I can look at myself in the mirror in my eyes, then I am fulfilled.
I love that. I love that. So many people, that's a difficult thing to do. Look yourself right in the eyes in the mirror. There's whole
Oh, she's
meditation,
scary.
mirror works about
She's
it.
scary.
Yeah,
But you got to be ready. She's with you. You can't get away from her.
that's
Like, I
right.
think that's the ludicrous thing is we think, oh, if I don't look her right in the eye, she's going to go away.
Yeah. Nope.
Mm-mm.
No, we have to love and accept those parts of ourselves, right? That
Exactly. Yep.
don't fit
Exactly.
the mold of the world. I don't know where
Nope.
everybody this mold got came from. Like we were never there was no mold when we were sent here. Express.
Yeah. And I think part of that getting stuck is that disappointment in ourselves that we didn't meet that really weird, unrealistic expectation.
Yeah.
Because and now we're still in it. Oh, you're expected to care for your parents.
Yeah.
Who the hell wrote that book?
Yeah, I know. It's this there's
There's a lot of
somebody
books out
putting
there. I
check
don't know who the
marks.
authors are.
Yeah, exactly. It's somebody putting the check marks out there somewhere in their little office building somewhere that has no idea about anything. And it's up to us to look deeply into these things within ourselves and decide, is this true for me? Is this really
Yes.
true? Or where did this belief come from? Did it come from my parents? Did it come from society? Did it come from my community? Did it come from my religion? It's
And
really
does it
important.
hold value to me anymore?
Exactly.
Does it serve its purpose? Is all of our coping skills, all of our everything, all served a purpose at the time when they were
That's
implemented?
true. I agree. Yep.
But that's where, okay, if you come from an abusive childhood as the adult and you're still with those same spidey senses and your fight, flight, and freeze has been heightened your entire, you're not going to know how to run the show,
Yeah.
and it's time to tell her, okay, we're not in that situation anymore. So we can put
Mm-hmm.
her down just a little bit
Yeah.
and look at that coping skill. And does that really serve you anymore? Or are you just making more
Yeah.
chaos?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why the work that we do as coaches is so important. Not everything
Mm-hmm.
is therapy, right? Therapy's great, don't get me wrong. But as coaches, we work on that goal for the future, that new life that you want to see yourself living in, rather than
Yeah.
being stuck in the muck
Yep.
of the past, right? We can help take
Yep.
that responsibility and move things forward. So, and then, because what we want is everybody to have a fulfilling life, right?
And it's redefining what does, like you said, what everybody coming up with their own definition of fulfilling.
Yeah,
You know
absolutely.
that women should have it all. Okay, what is all? So
Yeah.
all.
All is a fulfilled life, whatever that is to you,
Right.
right? There is no
Right.
definition. So, how, I think you already know this, but how will you know you did a good job raising your children?
I know that I have done a good job raising my children when other people tell me how kind they are.
Nice. I love that.
When I see them doing things when nobody's watching,
Mm,
or when they think that nobody's watching.
yeah. Yeah. I love that. So, what is something you tell yourself during challenging times? Because we all have them. You had lots. So, is there some little tip or trick or
Um, There's a very big piece of my self-talk that I do. If something's really challenging me, and I literally stand up and I bend down and I bounce, and I'm like, what is the impact does this have on my real life? What does this actually mean? And if it doesn't, I will repeatedly say, this has no impact on your real life. This has
I
no
love it.
If someone's pissing me off at work, if
Yeah,
someone's doing whatever, this has no impact on my real life. They can like me, not like me. I couldn't give a rat's patootie. But really taking that moment, that pause, and putting that challenge and that struggle in its proper place.
absolutely. It's proper perspective. Yeah. And I love the physicalness of it, right? Because that
I
also,
have to.
but that calms our central nervous system. That is, they're scientifically proven. We do some movement to that helps regulate our body's nervous
Absolutely.
system, which can be all messed with the amygdala and the fight or flight stuff. So I love that. And I know working in elementary school for 30 years, every kid is different. Some kid wants a hug, another kid needs to run, or another kid needs to lift heavy things to help calm their nervous system. So I love
Right.
that. That'll be a super nugget for people out there. All right. So, what is the most important thing you want people to take away from our conversation? Our first conversation, because we're going to probably have a few more.
I can only hope. The most important most important thing I want people to take away from today is one, to know that we are not crazy. We
Mm,
are not nuts. We are not insane. We are dealing with extremely heightened world. And all we need to do is talk. That is the only thing you need to do. And I do encourage people to find a professional, whether it's a therapist, a psychiatrist, or a coach, or a whoever. That verbal vomit, to get it out, opens up that space in your brain to be able to make rational decisions with your screaming toddler,
yes.
with your broken arm in the emergency room, or whatever flavor of the day that they
Yeah.
decide to serve up. If I'm all jumbled up because I'm worrying about what happened to me as a child in 1974,
Hmm.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
And I can't be who I want to be to them. It's just not possible.
Yeah. It's true. We really have to be in that present moment.
So that stuff that's stuck in our head, it is real. Get it out.
Yeah.
Get it out. And the reason why I do suggest a professional is, yes, I'm sorry, your friends really don't want to hear about it anymore. Not want to hear about my
Yeah.
crap anymore.
Yeah.
Which is why I come and I talk to lovely people like
Yeah.
yourself.
I know. I know my
Because
friends
I
are sick
might
of
as well find
listening to me.
somebody who wants to listen to it. It's true, but you need to get it out. And
Absolutely.
in a manner that it's out
Safe.
and, yep,
Yeah. So, are you familiar with the book The Artist's Way? I forget
I
the
have
author right
heard of
now.
it.
Yeah, so I haven't gone through the whole thing, but the first chapter, it's every month it's an exercise to open your creativity. I've never seen myself as a very creative person. I think I know I am now, but I didn't never thought of that because I thought about art and painting and stuff and crafts, and I'm like, no, I'm not good at any of
Right,
that
right,
stuff.
right.
Anyway, one of the exercises she tells you to do throughout the 12 weeks of this course is you have to write your morning pages. And what she means is that verbal vomit, you have to write 3 pages every morning. Don't care. If you got nothing to write, you sit there and go, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. But what she says is over the course of time, when you go back and you start reading it, then you get to really notice that negative self talk that's going on in your head. And now it's out on paper. And then you can start to go, what? That's nonsensical. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
That's not even true. So that practice, either to
You're
talk to somebody or to
exactly
write it
right.
down.
And
Yeah.
you're exactly right. Because once people say things out loud, they're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That was actually going on in my head for 2 decades, that this was okay,
Yeah.
or this was normal for me to be thinking like this.
Yeah.
No.
Or the have tos
And,
and the
and,
shoulds. Like when my kids were little, the
mhm,
shoulds almost killed me because my mother kept the cleanest house ever. She scrubbed the floors on her hands and knees and baseboards and fixtures and 3 times a year. And I'm a single mother with a 2 and a 4-year-old
right.
going. But in my head, I remember thinking, oh man, I should be getting those floors done. Oh my gosh, if my mother could see my kitchen right now, she would. But
Right.
My mother wasn't alive for me to have that conversation, for her to snap me into reality and say, no, girl, I was stupid by scrubbing my floors on the hands and knees.
Right.
But it's to
Right.
notice those negative thoughts would be so helpful
It's
for
the
everybody.
self-awareness. It's just that self-awareness.
Yeah, it is. Sarah, thank you so much. Can you tell listeners where to find you and all the things that
It's
you offer?
so yes, so beabutterfly.net. It actually worked out well. I was miffed that it wasn't a .com, but net seems to work well.
It does for
And
butterflies.
yep, and I am working on online courses and a book right now. So as that comes about and as we continue to talk
Yep.
more, I'll have more updates. But right
Awesome.
now, beabutterfly.net.
Awesome. Thank you, Miss Sarah.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. So glad you're still here. You do not suck as a parent. But I want you to know about something that we've created. The coaches and the experts that you see in this show, we've gotten together and we've created a community. It's called the Powerful Parenting Collective, where you as a parent can enter our group and have access to many of the experts that you see on the show, to private message them, to have a quick little video chat before you decide to hire them to help you in your parenting journey. Or maybe you decide not to do that. I want you to think about a community that is supportive, that will have events for you, free workshops, free information, and a place where you can really connect with the different experts that you've seen on this show. So click the link below and join us. Basically, think of it like a shopping mall for parents. We hope to see you there.